Good morning, evening, or night. Wherever you are, welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Tuesday, 17th June, 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. Australia's stock market displayed a mixed performance, initially dipping due to rising Middle East tensions and lower iron ore prices, particularly affecting Fortescue and BHP. Banks also contributed to the downward pressure amid geopolitical anxieties. However, CSL's US FDA approval for its hereditary angioedema drug offered some positive momentum. The Australian Securities and Investments Commission ASIC has initiated an inquiry into the Australian Securities Exchange, ASX, citing widespread concerns and serious failures, while property developer GemLife plans and ASICs float after raising $750 million. Alternative ACE ETFs have been suggested for investors overexposed to the Vanguard Australian Shares Index ETF, VSTOR. Economically, ADNOC has launched a significant $18.70 billion bid to acquire Santos. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ASIC, is reviewing IAG's proposed acquisition of RACI, soliciting submissions from interested parties. The Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, APR, is proposing minor adjustments to Banking Act exemption. The Australian agribusiness sector has shown mixed results over the last year. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has been actively promoting Australia's vast critical mineral deposits to global leaders, highlighting the symbolic significance of the trade agreement with Europe. Globally, fund managers are reportedly shifting strategies, advocating a Sell America approach and favoring other international markets. Saudi Arabia's economy is bustling, with activity as evidenced by the Saudi main index closing at 10,714, coupled with foreign ownership in Saudi equities exceeding $105 billion. Al-Qara Finance, a Saudi-listed company, secured a $26 million credit facility to further fuel growth. In the industrial sector, and Invest Industrial have joined forces to drive expansion. Addressing environmental concerns, ENOA and VCM finalized an agreement for 30 million tons of carbon credits. Riyadh Air is enhancing its passenger experience through a partnership with Blacklane for chauffeur services. The Saudi finance minister has stressed the importance of energy security for inclusive growth. Tex Institutional has also invested $114,000 in the iShares MSCI Saudi Arabia ETF, Nasir Kakase, indicating confidence in the market. Expanding its influence in sports, the Saudi League has made a significant financial offer to Barcelona's Fermin Lopez. Furthermore, Saudi Arabia and Panama have signed an air transport agreement to enhance global connectivity. The UAE and Saudi Arabia may soon be reclassified as developed markets. Shifting focus to the United Arab Emirates, the nation could soon see its status elevated to a developed market, potentially alongside Saudi Arabia. Football fans will be pleased to know that beIN Sport will broadcast Premier League football in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, and across the MENA region until 2028. In Qatar, beIN Sport will continue to broadcast Premier League football across the region until 2028, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Oman. Kuwait is also included in the beIN Sport broadcast agreement for Premier League football alongside the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman, securing coverage until 2028. Bahrain will also benefit from the beIN Sport deal, ensuring Premier League football broadcasts continue until 2028, covering the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman. Oman is part of the extensive Bein Sport Premier League broadcast agreement, ensuring coverage for the nation, along with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain, until 2028. Finally, Panama has solidified its global connections by signing an air transport agreement with Saudi Arabia. China's stock market is showing signs of strength, according to HSBC Asset Management, bolstered by factors like the end of ASIC economic dominance and steady corporate profits, alongside possible beneficial government actions. In energy news, China plans to almost double its nuclear power production by 2040, which would make it the world's leading producer of nuclear energy. COMAC, China's primary manufacturer of civilian aircraft, has arranged to buy Western components for its 929 wide-body jet, which is expected to compete with the Airbus A350 and Boeing 787 series. Gold is attracting significant investment from Chinese investors who anticipate price increases, although the closure of one company underscores the risks involved. Turning to the United States, President Donald Trump plans to grant ByteDance, the Chinese owner of TikTok, an additional 90 days to sell TikTok's U.S. operations. This is the third extension granted. If ByteDance fails to divest TikTok within this extended time frame, the social media app will be banned in the United States. India's Delivery saw its stock rise after the Competition Commission of India approved its Jokhan 14.7 crore acquisition of Ecom Express. The Indian rupee is expected to trade between 85.25 and 86.25 against the US dollar in the near future, according to Bank of Baroda. Air India has completed enhanced safety inspections on 24 of its 33 Boeing 787 planes, according to the nation's aviation safety regulator. In financial news, the NSE International Exchange and the Cyprus Stock Exchange signed a strategic move to allow cross and dual listings and to foster closer ties between their capital markets. In addition, the Indian market regulator approved changes to the derivative expiry days for exchanges. Iran's escalating tensions with Israel are raising concerns about possible disruptions to oil transport via the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery for global oil shipments. These anxieties, coupled with President Donald Trump's strong rhetoric towards Iran, including his warning to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and urging Iran to surrender, have propelled oil prices upward. The intensifying conflict further rippled through the cryptocurrency market, causing Bitcoin to decline to $104,000, a drop also influenced by lackluster U.S. economic figures. Japan experienced economic volatility amidst rising trade tensions. A recent report revealed a trade deficit in Japan, primarily driven by a sharp decrease in exports. Specifically, auto shipments to the U.S. fell nearly 25%, a consequence of tariffs previously imposed by President Donald Trump. Although the overall export decline was slightly lower than projected, it marked a significant downturn from the gains recorded the previous month. Adding to the complexity, President Trump publicly characterized Japan's stance in trade negotiations as tough. Despite these economic headwinds, Japan's Nikkei stock index managed to climb to a 4-month peak, mirroring optimistic market sentiments on Wall Street. Israel's ongoing conflict with Iran has intensified market anxieties, especially concerning potential disruptions to oil supplies. Initial speculation about possible U.S. involvement in the conflict briefly elevated oil prices before they stabilized. Market analysts suggest that the Indian stock market has already factored in the escalating tensions between Israel and Iran. This implies a degree of resilience or preparedness within the Indian financial system regarding these geopolitical events. Former President Trump has weighed in on the conflict, indicating his involvement extends beyond simply calling for a ceasefire. The specific nature and extent of his involvement remain unclear, but his statement suggests a more active role in addressing the escalating situation. Russia, faces scrutiny as a court approved the state seizure of Moscow's second-largest airport. Further compounding challenges, demand for prosthetics in the United Kingdom has soared, attributed to failures originating in Russia. In a move indicating deepening ties with North Korea, Russia is preparing to receive thousands of North Korean military construction workers and deminers to assist with reconstruction projects. Prior to this agreement, a high-ranking Russian official traveled to Pyongyang and engaged in discussions with the North Korean leader. North Korea is set to deploy a substantial workforce to Russia, consisting of thousands of military construction personnel and deminers. This deployment aims to support reconstruction efforts within Russia. The agreement follows a visit to Pyongyang by a prominent Russian official who held a meeting with the North Korean leader, signaling a strengthening alliance between the two nations. The United Kingdom is experiencing a notable increase in the demand for prosthetic limbs. This surge is reportedly connected to shortcomings and issues stemming from situations within Russia, although specific details regarding the precise nature of these failures remain somewhat vague. Ukraine's resilience was reinforced by international support and a forward-looking domestic initiative. Canada committed $4.30 billion in crucial aid. Taiwan formalized an agreement to provide Ukraine with drone software honed in combat, strengthening defenses. Ukraine also became the first European country to adopt a national standard for eco-industrial parks, signaling a commitment to sustainable development. Turning to Russia, the nation encountered intensified international constraints through additional sanctions. Canada's measures focused on Russia's shadow fleet. Simultaneously, the United Kingdom implemented sanctions intended to starve Russia's war machine, reflecting a coordinated strategy to weaken Russia's financial resources for military endeavors. Brazil's government proceeded with auctions of land and offshore oil sites near the Amazon River, seeking to expand production. Environmental groups and indigenous communities strongly opposed the auctions due to potential ecological damage. Petrobras and ExxonMobil jointly won bids for some contested oil blocks. A Brazilian businessman cited the Bolsa Familia program as a contributing factor to hiring difficulties in the labor market. Turning to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faced growing pressure over his handling of the SNC Lavalin affair. Allegations surfaced that his office inappropriately pressured former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould to avoid a criminal prosecution of the Quebec-based engineering firm. The controversy led to significant political fallout, with calls for Trudeau's resignation from opposition parties. The Prime Minister denied any wrongdoing, but admitted that there were discussions about the case with Wilson-Raybould. In the United States, President Donald Trump's administration continued to grapple with the ongoing investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Special counsel Robert Mueller's report was nearing completion, fueling speculation about its potential findings and political consequences. Meanwhile, tensions remained high between the United States and China over trade imbalances and intellectual property theft. Two countries engaged in ongoing negotiations aimed at resolving the trade dispute, but significant disagreements persisted. A new report indicated a rise in hate crimes targeting religious minorities, raising concerns about social divisions. Iran's escalating tensions with Israel are rippling through global markets, causing mixed performance in Asian stock exchanges. The geopolitical unrest has increased oil prices. This rise reflects broader market uncertainty. Wall Street's performance is also affected. Turning to Japan, the Nikkei index reached a 4-month high despite regional market anxiety. However, most other Asian stock markets experienced declines. Investors are carefully watching central bank meetings. They seek guidance amid this volatile environment. Across Asia, currencies saw modest gains despite the stock market downturn. The situation underscores the complex interplay between geopolitical risks and economic stability in the region. Market participants are keenly assessing the potential for further escalation and its impact on global trade and investment flows. Pakistan and the United States are aiming to finalize a trade deal swiftly, a move spurred by previous reciprocal tariffs imposed by President Trump. This development is intertwined with notable financial activity as shares of ASIC Chengdu Aircraft, the manufacturer of the J-10 fighter jet, saw a nearly 10% increase. This rally occurred just before Pakistan's Army Chief, Azim Munir, was scheduled to meet with President Trump, suggesting the potential trade deal might involve the J-10 aircraft. South Africa's medical research community is grappling with funding constraints stemming from budget cuts implemented during the tenure of former U.S. President Trump. These cuts pose a threat to advancements in critical areas like heart disease and HIV, impacting not only South Africa but potentially global research efforts. Simultaneously, South Africa is playing a key role in promoting economic integration across the continent through active involvement in the African Continental Free Trade Area, FFTA, seeking to boost intra-African trade. European markets are bracing for a cautious opening, largely due to the impending Federal Reserve announcement and the persistent unease from the Middle East conflict, where the Israel-Iran tensions have already impacted share values, exacerbated by climbing oil prices. Bank of America suggests international stocks are primed for growth over the next 5 years. Turning to Canada and India are mending diplomatic bridges by reinstating ambassadors after previous expulsions strained relations. In financial news, Canada has greenlit its inaugural spot XRP ETF, slated for launch on June 18 on the Toronto Stock Exchange. In Germany, German defense companies are exploring partnerships with steel manufacturers to capitalize on the burgeoning defense sector. Simultaneously, the ZEW indicator reveals that investor confidence in Germany has surpassed expectations in June. Shifting focus to Hong Kong and Singapore, Michelin-recognized Ancient Moon, celebrated for its Singaporean and Malaysian culinary offerings, is shuttering its Hong Kong branch after a decade, attributing the closure to a demanding retail landscape. Conversely, BlackRock is expanding its reach by launching a liquid alternatives fund tailored for retail investors in both Singapore. Moving to Indonesia, Wilmar's stock value plummeted following a substantial $729 deposit linked to an ongoing palm oil case in Indonesia. Meanwhile, President-elect Prabowo Subianto is scheduled to meet with Vladimir Putin to reinforce the strategic partnership between Indonesia and Russia. In Kenya is looking to secure funding through a panda bond to facilitate the extension of the standard gauge railway, Skuri to Malap. Switching to Nigeria, Afrexim Bank is spearheading efforts to bolster trade within Africa by establishing a new shipping route connecting Nigeria and Namibia. Additionally, Nigeria's inflation rate has shown signs of easing, dropping to 22.97% in May, 2007% in May. Over in Switzerland, a former employee of Pictet Bank has been convicted and sentenced for engaging in money laundering activities. In more positive news, Switzerland has been awarded European Research Council (ASIC) advanced grants after a multi-year hiatus. Furthermore, the number of irregular migrants entering Switzerland has decreased by half compared to the previous year. In Thailand, Thai exports have experienced a significant upswing, recording the most substantial increase in 3 years, occurring amidst potential tariff impositions by the United States. Lastly, in the United States, President Trump is considering an extension to the deadline requiring TikTok to modify its ownership structure. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM today.